Welcome back to r/NeighborsFromHell, where people share stories about their crazy neighbors, and if you're new to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe to join our amazing community, and without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. The first one is titled, "Neighbors sued me for $250,000 over my loud dog, now I am losing my home." Like most people, we always had dogs in the house growing up. There has never been a point in my life where we did not have a family dog. And if you have ever had a dog, you know that even the most well-behaved dogs bark sometimes. It can be annoying sometimes, especially if you are trying to study or focus on chores, but it is a part of owning a dog and I still would not have it any other way. When I moved out of my parents' house, I could not wait to go and adopt my own dog. I had never lived on my own before, and having a furry friend there with me helped a lot. I was excited to finally venture out on my own and have my own dog. I was so excited to move into my new house. It was in a nice suburban area with a big yard, so that when I did adopt my dog, they would have plenty of space to run around in. And just a few weeks after moving in, I adopted a dog from the local animal shelter. Everything was going great for me. Well, that is until I found out that my neighbor was trying to sue me over my dog's barking problem. You see, I had been in my new home for a little less than a year, everyone in the neighborhood was genuinely nice, and most of my neighbors even stopped me to pet my dog and chat with me. I had adopted my dog, Bailey, right after I moved into my new house, and although she was only a couple of months when I adopted her, she was a pretty well-behaved dog. She was super friendly and loved sniffing strangers and other dogs on walks. And just like any other dog, she did love to bark sometimes. However, it was never anything too excessive, well, at least that is what I thought. My next door neighbor did not agree with this though, because one day I was hit with the notice that I was being sued over my dog's barking. I was shocked because, well, Bailey was pretty well behaved for the most part. She did bark sometimes, but it was nothing too extreme or out of the ordinary. Secondly, even if my dog's barking was a problem, you would think that this was a problem that could be solved between my neighbor and me. Although I had always had problems with this neighbor, they had never complained to me directly about my dog. He had done other small things to irritate me, such as parking his car in front of my driveway, never waving back to me when I saw him out on his porch, etc., but I always brushed it off, mainly because I didn't want any problems, and besides, I'm not a very confrontational person. Well, this would end up backfiring on me. I wished I would have taken the lawsuit more seriously, but let's be honest, who is going to take a lawsuit serious when someone is suing you for $250,000 over a noise complaint? The information in the complaint was so ridiculous that I honestly felt like I was getting trolled. For example, in the complaint my neighbor stated that my dog's barking was causing him emotional distress because her barking was as loud as 128 decibels. For reference, that is about as loud as a commercial jet. Which is obviously untrue, as it is completely impossible. For instance, Bailey is a 60-pound golden Labrador. She is a medium-sized dog, and although her bark is a little deep, it is definitely not loud. My neighbor kind of seemed like an a-hole, and I honestly didn't know him that well, and I didn't wish to. But I never expected that he would sue me over my dog. I must admit, I'm pretty ignorant when it comes to the law in instances like this, and now I was going to be paying for it. You see, I had ignored the lawsuit because I honestly thought if I didn't respond, well, she would not have a case. Also, like I said before, how was I supposed to take this seriously? It was obvious to me by now that my neighbor was a douchebag, and in the back of my mind I couldn't help but wonder if this lawsuit was completely bogus. So I ignored the lawsuit and did not get a lawyer or anything. However, this completely backfired on me. Because I failed to contest to the lawsuit, by default my neighbor was going to be awarded $250,000. And yes, you read that right, $250,000 over emotional distress caused by the sound of the dog barking, which reached up to 128 decibels. I was absolutely shocked, more shocked than when I first learned about the lawsuit in the first place. Imagine sitting at home one day, just relaxing for the weekend, when suddenly the sheriffs pull up to your property and start putting signs on the garage and house door. And suddenly you are being told that your neighbor won the lawsuit and now you are forced to move out. I did my best to cooperate with the sheriffs and legal people now involved, but I knew that this was wrong. I admitted to them and myself and anyone reading this that yes, I had messed up by not responding to the claim. However, my dog barking was not an issue and certainly not a $250,000 issue at that. I decided to fight back and got lawyers involved after the sheriffs showed up at my house. However, it may already be too late. One lawyer told me that by not detesting originally, it was like being sued and not showing up to court. The person filing the lawsuit automatically wins by default. I wish I had known this sooner and I regret not taking any action in the first place. I have started fighting back, but so far it looks like it is not going to end well in my favor. Even if I end up being able to stay in my house, I will have to pay the fees to my neighbor. And even if I don't have to pay the fees or leave my house, this has been a very costly experience. I wish I had prepared for this or taken it seriously from the beginning, because if I did, I would not have to be spending all this extra time and money on lawyers and legal papers. My advice to anyone, if you ever get sued or hit with a legal complaint, please take it seriously. In these days, it seems like a lot of people are sue happy and will sue you over the dumbest stuff. But no matter how ridiculous it may seem, you are required to take action and have a lot better chances at winning your case if you take it seriously. And yeah, ripe stars, that is certainly a life lesson. In addition, I am really curious how loud OP's dog really was. Either way, if you enjoy the stories about crazy neighbors, then I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and maybe post some star emojis in the comments if you want to support my channel. Thank you so much in advance, your support is very much appreciated. The next one is titled, Crazy Karen attacks me over a toy, sweet karma shows up. I never thought I would run across an actual Karen like those that I read about here, but yesterday I was proven wrong. So wrong. A bit of backstory, I have a 5-year-old girl that is best of friends with my neighbor's daughter who has special needs. The two are inseparable. My wife had bought our daughter a toy a few weeks ago as a reward for doing all her chores and being awarded as Student of the Week in her kindergarten class. She immediately took it over to the neighbor's house and the two girls love to play with it. It is one of those toys that comes with accessories, slime, stickers, etc. Well, since then, this particular toy has been featured on a very popular morning talk show and is now pretty hard to find. My daughter's friend's birthday is the day after Thanksgiving and asked me if we could buy her best friend the same toy as her gift. We couldn't say no to her request for her best friend, so we started looking online to see if we could find one. After a few days of no luck, one of the very popular, more bougie of the big box stores had some in stock at a store about 30 minutes away. I hit the road to try and get my hands on one before they were all gone. This is what happened when I got there, and I still cannot believe it happened. I got to the store, grabbed a shopping cart because I was going to grab a couple other things while I was there, and walked straight to the toy department. I looked around for a few minutes before I finally saw the toy I was after. There was only one left and I grabbed it and put it in my cart. I was so glad I finally found one. I started to walk away to continue shopping when I heard a voice behind me say, Excuse me, but that toy was mine. I put it down and was coming right back for it. Do you mind?" I replied with, "Oh, I'm sorry. I've been looking for this toy as a gift for a very special little girl, and it was on the shelf, so I'm sorry, but no. I'm going to buy it." She instantly shot daggers at me with her eyes and said, "Excuse me? I was here first, and I need it more than you. I have a customer that ordered it, and I need it now, so please hand it over." That's when it struck me, she is a reseller and had promised something she didn't have. At that point I didn't. I was pretty much like, oh well, but that's not my problem, but maybe they have more in the back. "You should ask someone that works here," and went about my way to finish my shopping. As I was walking away, she snipped, "You're a real jerk, you know that?" I sarcastically responded, "Maybe, but I got what I came for. Have an awesome day." And walked away. I made my way to the laundry detergent aisle and quickly forgot about the woman. A few minutes later, as I grabbed some detergent and dryer sheets, I stopped to check what else was on my list. The same woman entered the aisle and quickly said, "Oh, there you are. Listen, I asked an employee and they said there aren't any in the back and they don't know when more are coming in. I would appreciate if you would do the right thing and just give it back to me before I find a manager and tell them you took it out of my hands." I quickly responded with, "Huh? What are you talking about? This toy was on the shelf and nobody else was around when I picked it up, so please leave me alone." "You cannot have it, and that's it." I tried to walk out of the aisle when this crazy Karen stepped in front of my cart, reached into my cart and tried to take the toy. I quickly pulled the cart back and said, "What is your problem, lady? Get away from me." She then tried it again, but this time I put my hand on the toy before she could grab it. She then dug her nails into my arm before I smacked her hand away with a loud, "What the hell, lady? Get away from me." This is when the crazy Karen act went into overdrive. She instantly started screaming for help at the top of her lungs. "Help! He's attacking me! Help me, somebody!" Naturally, a bunch of people quickly came over to see what was going on, and there I was, a 6'3" man with tattoos and a shaved head and beard standing there as she threw herself on the floor. And yes, she actually threw herself on the floor, screaming for help. I thought to myself, this is going to end badly for me. 2 employees were a couple aisles over and came running. Now there were a few people and the employees looking at this Karen on the ground, pleading for help and screaming for someone to call the police. The employee asked what happened while helping her up from the floor, and she immediately lied and said that I attacked her and took her items from her cart. I quickly stated that this crazy lady is lying and she attacked and then threw herself on the floor to get me in trouble. A manager shows up and asks what happened while Karen is standing there with crocodile tears saying I assaulted her over her toy. I quickly denied the false accusation and demanded that the police be called. The manager had the police called and I waited right there. The lady had a crowd of people around her consoling her, and they are all looking at me like I'm some sort of woman beater. All the while she is telling everyone around her what a monster I am and that she intends to press full charges against me for assault. After about 10 to 15 minutes, 2 police officers show up and start to ask questions about what happened. I explained what had happened from beginning to end and she told her twisted fairy tale. The officers asked if the security cameras had a shot of the area. We were escorted to the manager's office, and while one officer reviews the footage with the manager, the other officer asked for our IDs and stepped out of the office. More than likely to do a warrant check, I assumed. This is when glorious karma showed up. After a couple of minutes of the officer reviewing the camera footage and her continued lies about what happened, he asks Karen, "Ma'am, I'm only going to ask this once. Would you like to change your story about what happened?" I instantly smiled from ear to ear. "What are you talking about? He attacked me and I want him arrested," said Karen. The officer responded with, "Ma'am, that's not happening." He then turned to me and asked if I wanted to press charges for assault. My answer, hell yes. Karen went pale as a ghost, she went on a tirade, and just then the second officer came back into the office, handed me back my ID, whispered something to the other officer, and then asked Karen to stand up and put her hand behind her back and arrested her for an outstanding felony warrant along with an assault charge. What an awesome outcome! The manager apologized to me for all the trouble as Karen was led out of the office in handcuffs. The officer photographed the scratches on my arm for evidence, gave me a copy of the report for the court, and wished me a nice rest of my day. The manager even gave me a $50 gift card that I used to pay for my purchase and went about my merry way. All this over a toy and self-entitlement. And I gotta say, Ripe Stars, this might be one of my favorite Karen stories of all time. I just love how the story instantly took a 180-degree turn. Karen got exactly what she deserved, if you ask me. The next one is titled, "Am I the a-hole for having my neighbor's car towed?" So I, 20 male, live in a condo lot with a couple of roommates and we all have our assigned parking spaces that we paid for. My space is next to our neighbors who has 2 spots of their own. Now normally I don't have a problem with said neighbors, they are very friendly, very courteous of the other people in the condo lot and just very good neighbors overall. However, recently, a car that is not mine started parking in my space, thus causing me to have to park across the street and crossing the street during heavy traffic. After the first day of this happening, I asked around to the other tenants in my lot to try and see whose car it was, and no one knew who the car belonged to. Then I asked the neighbors who have spaces next to mine, and they said, yeah, it's family. You are normally gone all day at college, I'm currently in college, so we didn't think it would be that big of a deal since that space is normally unoccupied during the day. I then asked, well, how long is your family going to be staying with you? I figured if it was only gonna be a couple days or even a week, I could suck it up and just park across the street. They replied, they will be staying with us for a while. We don't know how long exactly, but at least it will be a couple of weeks if not months. Needless to say, I was not happy. I said, remaining calm and collected, if I come home tomorrow and their car is parked in my spot that I paid for, then I will have your car towed. They assured me it wouldn't and I left feeling pretty satisfied. The next day, however, I come home and the car is still in my spot. So I park across the street, go to their condo and confront them, asking why their family car is still in my spot. They said, oh sorry, we didn't want to park across the street. I said, okay, and left fuming. I went inside my condo and called the building manager and asked them to call a tow truck. About half an hour later, the tow truck arrived and towed their car. I moved my car into my spot, the neighbors saw this and asked me why I did that. I said, because you had a car in a spot that wasn't yours. They called me an a-hole and want me to pay the fine to get the car back. My roommates on the other hand don't think I'm an a-hole because it is my spot. So Reddit, am I the a-hole for having my neighbor's car towed? And Ripe Stars, I would like to relay this question to you. Do you think that OP is the a-hole for having his neighbors towed from his own paid parking spot? Please let us know what you think in the comments. Either way, a user in the comments said, not the a-hole, you told them in advance that if they parked in your space then you would have their car towed, not your fault that they paid no attention to you. Another person said, not the a-hole, you paid for the spot, honestly, it was very nice of you to seemingly let them park in the spot while you were gone and you just asked for it to be moved by a certain time. Tow away, keep towing if it keeps happening. Or rent your spot to them, charge them double payment up front and make some dollars off these neighbors. Another person said, they calculated the risk of stealing your paid parking lot and somehow decided it will be in their favor and then to fail miserably. Man, do they suck in math. Maybe they should go to college like you. Also, you played nice by giving them a chance and they took it and threw it out like garbage. Again assuming they excelled in math and failed miserably again. Not sure why they are shocked and insist on you paying a fine, which can be avoided by parking legally. And Ripe Stars, with this we have reached the end of the video. However, if you still cannot get enough of my content, then I would highly suggest to check out my endless binge watch playlist, which will soon show up in the left corner of the screen. In addition, I would really appreciate it if you could not only subscribe to the channel but also turn on the bell notifications, which you can do by clicking on the little bell icon right next to the subscribe button. This will help my channel tremendously and this will make sure that you don't miss any of my videos. Furthermore, if you want to see additional Ripe content that I don't post on YouTube, then I would suggest to head on over to patreon.com/RipeYouTube for more than 50 exclusive videos that you will not see anywhere else. Thank you so much for your amazing daily support and I hope to see you again tomorrow.